Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Crimson, Gray, Dusk, and Dawn. So, last time we left off, I believe that we were planning to have this important politician lady here because she was coming to speak out against Koitek, which, if you have kept up with this series, they are a presumably evil organization that is using very bad drugs to do very bad things. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right on back into it. Let's see. I guess November 7th, I would assume. I just want to make sure this is the right save point. Yeah, seems legit. Oogie. I want to make sure this is absolutely... Yeah, it looks right. Okay. When the day finally came, it wasn't as grand as all the build-up had led Lizzie to expect. It was just another speaker coming to campus, after all, and as one of the better universities in the region, they got plenty of speakers. The growing power of pharmaceuticals was a somewhat hot topic, but it was hardly a source of celebrity. Her expectations had been tempered by John's attitude, though. Aaron and some of the other organizers were exhilarated, as if a visit from a guest speaker would change everything. But, as usual, he was more reserved. It was one of the things that made his love for her so special, and she loved it as part of him. The low-key nature of the entire thing did a lot to calm her anxiety, though Lizzie had filled many pages of her notebook with plans in the event of an attack. But, given that this was one stop on a long speaking tour, it seemed less likely that Koitek would actually try anything. They were headed out to attend soon, and though it seemed to be as casual as most events on campus, Lizzie had dressed up a little out of habit. She lingered by the cabinet, trying to select which weapons to take along with her. The problem was that she had room for so few. Her axe, of course, but the knives were always a problem. Ready to go, Lizzie?
Almost, John. Let me pick a knife and I'll be with you.
He leaned against the nearby wall, watching her thoughtfully as she chose. After a moment, he spoke slowly. I'm just wondering, would you be happy if Kelsey managed to destroy Koitek somehow?
Of course! It's a terrible company. It gave you that awful drug and tried to take us apart. But she isn't going to destroy it. Just regulate it. Maybe things will get better. But I want revenge.
I mean... Damn, okay. I meant destroy in a metaphorical sense. Dismantling the corporation. You're more thinking level it to the ground?
Blood and flames.
Lizzie answered happily and finally picked a slender knife. A good balance of range, heavy enough to be durable, but thin enough to augment her axe with stabbing potential. She set it into its place and turned to him.
But I don't mind things like this. Anything that works against them is good. And though I don't want you to hurt yourself, I'm happy that you care about this so much.
But if there was some way to leave them intact but ensure they never bothered us again?
I take it, of course. You're the most important thing.
She leaned forward to give him a kiss, letting this one linger. It might be their last until the serious event was over, so she wanted to enjoy it. Not that she minded waiting. It made the next kiss when they came together all the sweeter. I just wanted to say that you're the most important thing to me too. Sorry if I seem preoccupied by all this.
No, it's fine. I like to see you focus on things you love.
Well, I don't take you for granted. I hope I never do.
Aw, John. If you keep talking like that, we won't make it to the event.
He chuckled and offered her his arm, which she gladly accepted. They headed out to the hall to hear the speech. They arrived and found the hall surprisingly full. Almost enough to make her wish they'd arrived earlier, but it would be fine. Anne waved to them from near the front, but those seats were already full, so they took the ones near the back. It's good to see our work wasn't wasted, at least. Lots of people seem interested.
Lots of people from the community, too.
It doesn't surprise me. Koitek may not have direct presence here, but they manufacture so many drugs, people have to know about them. Lizzie reached out to hold his hand while they waited for things to get started. He took it and chatted casually with her until it was finally time. After some awkward testing at the mic and a squeal of feedback, the dean managed to quiet people down. Though he gave an introduction to Francesca Kelsey, Lizzie wasn't able to focus on it. She already knew the information, and it was essentially just a formality anyway. More importantly, Lizzie looked for the woman herself and found her seated near the front. She looked like her pictures. Nothing out of the ordinary, but Lizzie shifted her gaze between her and the exits just to be sure. When Francesca Kelsey took the stage, Lizzie surreptitiously shot a glance at John, but she had been wrong to worry. He had shifted it to his purely focused mode, interested only in what she had to say. On my first day of work at the FDCA, my supervisor said I should look for another job, because the organization wouldn't be needed for long. She was a good speaker, though her speech had the feeling of one that had been repeated a huge number of times. It had an air of authenticity, but it was practice and authenticity. Oh, but it was a practice authenticity. Lizzie could only focus on it in the background anyway. While listening idly, Lizzie came to a realization, something she had never said to John, probably something she should discuss with him. She squirmed a little in her seat, wondering what thoughts he might have about it, but she couldn't interrupt. Some people might have said that Quartet created her, with her ill-advised experiment when Abby was pregnant. With their ill-advised experiment. Lizzie never felt that way, until now had not reflected on the fact. Lizzie had never felt that way until now had not... Okay, that's a little bit weird. Now she understood why. The experiment might have made her different from other girls, but Lizzie didn't care about that at all. What mattered to her was the person she was now, shaped by years of growing up, and most importantly, shaped by John. Her world had felt so hollow and empty, and then when she found him, she had been monomaniacal in her focus on him, but he had opened up a new world of possibilities for her. Unable to contain herself, Lizzie leaned over and kissed John on the cheek. He blinked in surprise and then smiled at her. Resting her head against his shoulder, Lizzie let her focus drift back to the speech for a moment. The industry's lobbyists would have you believe that their self-regulation has been and will continue to be effective. The primary example of that is always brought up is how thalidomide was kept out of the United States, and so many children were spared birth defects. But as I demonstrate thoroughly in my book, this was more of a quirk of fate than self-regulation, and that thin layer of defense will not be remotely adequate given the massive increase in research and development that we've seen within the past 2 decades. Most notably, many of the new drugs being produced treat conditions that are fundamentally subjective. The consequences, if any, will take years to emerge and may not always be as clearly defined as birth defects. Make no mistake, there are people alive today bearing the scars of this unchecked research. Sooner or later, they will come forward. Lizzie sat tensely, deciding to hold in her concerns of that development, but John had already considered that. He squeezed her hand and bent closer to whisper to her. Are you alright?
John, would you want me to step forward and do that?
No. His answer came immediately. Lizzie was a little surprised, and John seemed to have taken himself aback, but a moment later he smiled. No, you mean more to me than all of this. Anyone who steps forward would be surrounded by a horrible amount of controversy. I want you here with me. Her smile widened and Lizzie leaned in to kiss him, tears in her eyes. She had so many things she wanted to say to him, but some people around them were already glaring at their whispering. When the two of them kissed, most of the glares rolled their eyes and turned away. The speech ended with Francesca's usual conclusion. The FDCA was toothless compared to the pharmaceutical giants, and the world needed a far more comprehensive set of regulations. Part of Lizzie's mind acknowledged that it was true, but it seemed a very distant and clinical thought compared to the warmth inside her. After the speech, the floor was open to questions, which drew their attention away from each other. This was the part John was most interested in after all, and Lizzie agreed with him that they were more likely to hear new information during that part. The first person to get the mic asked a boring generic question about what students could do in the face of giant companies. She also had a flirtatious walk, so Lizzie scowled at her for both reasons. Soon, though, Aaron was at the mic to ask his question. You covered the potential impact on the United States well, but only spoke in vague terms about the need for international regulations. What impact do you expect the rise of pharmaceutical giants to have on the global south? It was a question Lizzie hadn't really given much thought. She reflected that Aaron was always caring about impoverished and disadvantaged people. That was not a trait Lizzie shared, but looking at it objectively, she decided that it was a good form of kindness. She appreciated kindness in John, so she should give Aaron some credit as well. Outside of her mind, Francesca paused for only a moment before answering. Her response was smooth, but it lacked the practiced air of her speech. Any large corporation is going to have a global impact, of course, and we'll see it especially in the rainforests and in mineral-rich countries. Needless to say, these relationships will be exploitative. But I think we should be most suspicious of the actions that actually seem most benevolent, specifically the ostensibly altruistic donations of drugs to various countries for free or produced at cost. For example, I have long believed that Straz Inc. is distributing insufficiently tested drugs and effectively using the supposed beneficiaries of their donations as test subjects, but there can be serious concerns even for well-intentioned attempts, such as the mental stimulants Meniger AG donated in sub-Saharan Africa. They've had a positive impact on test scores, yes, but those drugs have serious long-term side effects when not taken according to a rigid schedule. Given the reality of the situation, both financial and personal, many recipients simply won't follow or even have a chance to follow the proper course. We'll be seeing the consequence of that for later years. A decent question, if not one that had held particular interest for her. Lizzie listened to a few more bad questions before she sensed a general movement in John's body and realized that he was getting up to ask a question of his own. She nodded at him and let go of his hand. She listened in irritation as other people asked questions, but finally it was his turn. He cleared his throat nervously, but wasn't so uncomfortable as he might have been before. For those of us who want to have a career in this field, where do you think we might make the most difference? What balance do you see between regulating from the outside and trying to change organizations from within? Not a bad question, though Lizzie found herself wondering just how much it mirrored his thought process. He had discussed his thoughts about the future with her, of course, but there was something different about hearing him state them out loud in front of so many people. A good question, but a difficult one. I'd like to believe that the best answer is the FDCA or another regulatory body, but I'm not sure I'd recommend someone who hasn't started their career to go that direction. We'll see what happens with our lobbying over the next few years. As for reforming within, I'm tempted to say that's impossible. Look at soft synth. It carried the Japanese economy for a time, but now internal conflict is threatening long-term deflation. In my mind, the biggest threat is that corporations will lack meaningful competition and make it effectively impossible for anyone to regulate them. So honestly, what we might need more than anyone is business majors. That got a laugh from the audience, but it struck Lizzie as a serious answer. John pondered it as well, his eyes contemplative as he turned to sit beside her. Lizzie was dying to know his thoughts, but for now she just smiled as he sat down beside her. None of the questions after that were particularly notable. Lizzie began to get nervous as their time ran out, since if something bad were to happen, it would likely happen toward the end. Yet it ended without incident, as had every anxious situation in the years since the battle with Koitek operatives, but she was only slowly beginning to relax. If all those events had gone smoothly, maybe their wedding would as well. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. And if that was true, then what were they waiting for? Lizzie gazed toward John as they headed out, pondering the thought. But there were so many things they were dealing with, so many considerations, so many thoughts, and it was just wonderful being with him. There's no need to rush. Setting the matter aside, Lizzie happily just discussed the speech with John as they headed home. There would be discussion groups, but the only person she wanted in her group was him. They talked late into the night and happily fell asleep still in their clothes. In the middle of a boring psychology class, Lizzie partially listened to the lecture while she worked on her notebook. She was drawing lots of pictures of John now, and getting a little better at it. Sometimes her focus drifted though, and she found herself writing his name over and over again. Now that the event was past, most of her immediate fears had been put to rest, at least temporarily. If Koitek wasn't likely to be tracking them down, then she had more options. Maybe they could get married after all. If so, she was disappointed that she'd made them wait so long. But how to get to that point? Though she didn't worry about making John afraid of her, she didn't want to add any stress to his life by seeming too insistent. And yet it had to be perfect. Their wedding would be another treasured memory of their lives together as she wanted to carry around with her forever. A small part of her did worry that he was putting it off for some reason of his own. She couldn't doubt, that he was fully committed to her. But there was a difference between living together and actually getting married. The professor said something that drew some of her attention away from what really mattered. That list sounded like it would be on the exam, That list sounded like it would be on the exam, and he did like to include things that were lecture only to catch sleeping students. Lizzie quickly scribbled it down to memorize later, irritated at the distraction. The only reason she was even in the class was that she needed the credit to graduate. At first, Lizzie had actually been interested, wondering if she could learn anything about depression that would help her be a better partner to John. But mostly, the class was just useless. Everything was focused on specific patterns of thought and declaring them to be unnatural, when they didn't seem any stranger than the way most people thought, at least not to her. Trying to engage with it mentally just irritated her. And what they said about depression just made her angry. They talked about depression like it was a simple problem that would soon be cured. The professor was even a fan of Koitek. Lizzie was certain that if he had his way, they'd take away her John and replace him with a different person. Without realizing it, her writing in the notebook had become sketchy and angry. Lizzie refocused and tried to draw him again. The way he looked when he came through sadness and showed her that quiet happiness deep within his eyes. When the lecture ended, Lizzie wasn't quite there, so she bit her tongue and tried to finish quickly. No one usually paid her any mind. She could finish and leave herself in a good place. Holy shit! Lizzie reacted instantly at the voice over her shoulder, slamming her notebook closed with one hand and reaching down for her axe with the other. She restrained herself from acting, instead focusing up on the girl beside her. This is some serial killer shit right here. I don't think my personal drawings are any of your business. It's everybody's problem if you're stalking some random guy. Lizzie forced herself to smile, not mess anything up for him. Her body trembled just slightly as she put her notebook away and rose to her feet calmly. This isn't just some random guy. It's my boyfriend. And does he know you keep a stalker journal? No, but that was beside the point. She didn't understand. She didn't understand at all. She was insulting their relationship. Lizzie evaluated her quickly. No physical threat, no capability to put up any resistance. Oh, there's the option I'm guessing we're gonna go for. So we can kill her, or don't kill her yet. I do want to try something. It's something that we have not done yet. We're gonna go ahead and kill her. For a moment, her will coalesced with, and Lizzie was utterly certain that she needed to kill the girl. Her fingers twitching, preparing. Go through with it. We're gonna try and push it. I'm gonna see if we can actually kill her. Memories of John flooded into her mind, bringing her a peaceful calm. Lizzie gave the girl a gentle smile. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I really don't think it's your place to judge our relationship. But this is... I'm going to get on with my life now. You get on with yours. Lizzie gave her another smile and departed as swiftly as possible, a skip in her step. Oh, okay. So, so we've made a choice here, obviously, to go ahead and kill her. And this is kind of just me giving into some curiosity, right? Because I want to see if we're actually gonna, like, you know, kill her. So we'll see. There was no question that the girl needed to be disposed of. The only question was what way would be most appropriate. That meant she just needed to choose her methods, which Lizzie found rather pleasant. As nice as it might be to remove her directly, Lizzie decided that it would be best to move her with poison. While it wouldn't be effortless to gather the necessary supplies without arousing suspicion, she had access to many resources on campus. It wouldn't be hard. Not at all. Lizzie still made sure to do everything right, tailing the girl over several days to learn her schedule and determine potential problems. She was shockingly casual about leaving drinks lying around her dorm room, so the only issue was getting in and out unseen. When the day finally came, it was disappointingly easy. Lizzie was so happy to hear the news that it was easy to pretend to be upset. Everything was perfect now. But when she got home, she found John sitting on the couch with a somber expression on his face. Lizzie rushed up to him immediately. John, what's wrong? Did you hear about the girl who died? Yes, I don't really care about her, but I can pretend to be sad. Don't worry. She said it lightly, trying to draw a smile from him, but John remained somber. Lizzie, do you still get the urge to kill people? You know I do, but you know I wouldn't actually kill someone, do you? Especially not an innocent girl. That's good. I really do love the way you are, but sometimes I worry that I... Please don't worry, John. Everything's fine now. We're safe. There's no need to kill anyone. I guess I'm just being paranoid. There was a smile she wanted from him. Lizzie happily went to embrace him, gripping him as tightly as she could. It had been true. There was no more need to kill anyone. The threat was gone, and she was at peace again,
and John wouldn't notice anything, and she could love him forever. Now there was nothing left to do but to make happy college memories.
Oh, defending him. So that's an ending, I guess. Oh! Okay, so I guess that's one of the endings. So I'm assuming... Because I think earlier we had some options to kill, I think, Aaron and some other girl that was with Aaron. Like Aaron's girlfriend or something like that. So maybe if we did that, we would also get another end to the game. So I guess basically the whole thing is that if you kill somebody in the game, then it's kind of like a game over. Okay, interesting. Let's load back up. Killer, killer, killer. Don't kill her yet. Taking a deep breath, Lizzie maintained control for John's sake and answered calmly. I don't think it's your place to meddle with our relationship. Yeah, no. This is just like what we were talking about last week. Either he doesn't know and you're creepy as hell, or he does and you have some kind of weird codependent relationship. If you can't see that you need help, you need someone to help you. You shouldn't say things like that. Look, I'm just applying what we learned. John is a kind person. He wouldn't judge me like you do. Then he's just enabling your condition. Lizzie took a deep breath and took a moment to think. Slit her throat immediately, remove her fingers and feed them to her, befriend her until an opportunity for extensive torture, end the conversation quickly, and acquire napalm, bury her alive, end the conversation and tell John all about it, strangle her with her own intestines, Jesus, remove her cleanly, and dispose of the body. Oh my god. Okay, I want to see. Do we get another, like, option here? Oh, you know what? I would really love to, like, see if we actually go through with any of these. But I'm going to assume it's kind of like the last one where we're just going to be like, okay, well, let's go calmly about this. Let's just try it. Okay, so it doesn't actually allow you to pick those options. Let's just end the conversation and tell John about it. Maybe we can do that? Only her promises to him prevented Lizzie from doing what she wanted to do. Instead, she gave the other girl a smile. The professor also said that analysis should only be done by professionals. Are you a certified professional? The response was nothing special, only the best that Lizzie could manage while under such stress. Yet the girl took a step back, suddenly uncertain. Look, I was just making an observation, okay? Perhaps you can make such observations about your own relationship. A moment later, the girl fled the class with remarkable speed. Lizzie suppressed her urge to give chase. That had not been entirely wise of her, but she didn't care about that right now. Her world was still hollow, and she slowly became aware that she was gripping the handle of her axe so tightly that it hurt. Though she was tempted to follow her instincts, Lizzie remembered John and set those thoughts aside. Refocused, Lizzie carefully loosened her grip, then headed home at the high speed that wouldn't draw attention. When she arrived, she threw herself into John's arms and held him tightly. He looked concerned, and she hesitated for a moment before the words spilled out of her in a white-hot flood. She held nothing back, telling the story in a disjointed tangle of events, her emotions, and what she wanted to do. John just held her tighter and listened, not judging in the slightest. Being in his arms always calmed her, and soon Lizzie was closer to what others would consider normal. She did like being this way, happy and peaceful, and she could do more for John like this. It was an unintended side effect, and it stopped her from slaughtering anyone. John, thank you. I'm always here for you, Lizzie. As she regained clarity, she realized that she had added stress to his life by doing this. Though she berated herself for it, Lizzie knew that he didn't mind helping her in this way. It doesn't make you angry to hear the things she said? It does a little, but she probably just has a big head for learning new concepts in class and wants to use them on people. John is too kind. Too kind. I'll always protect him. And I'm glad you do, Lizzie. But you don't need to hurt anyone to protect me, okay? Okay. She embraced him warmly, trying to pour affection into him instead of just receiving it. Part of her regretted not holding back her thoughts, since it had drained him a little, but at least she knew that he would never judge her. She stayed in his arms for a while after that, setting aside her guilt over causing him stress, and just indulging in his kindness for a while. The girl had been right about one thing. A normal boy could never have been with her. John was special. That was why they were so wonderful together. Even as she regained her full calm, however, one thing didn't change in her mind. Maybe it wasn't possible due to the circumstances, but it would have been better to kill the girl. Alrighty. I think we're gonna go ahead and end it here. Boom. Alright, so I think we're gonna end it there, and we're gonna go ahead and go back to the main menu. Yes. Alright, well, okay, that was fun. We played around a little bit with the whole, hey, let's go ahead and kill somebody thing. So, I guess the kind of final, the final goal of this game is probably going to be marriage, just, you know, considering that that's kind of one of the more prominent things that Lizzie talks about. And at the same time, I still am wondering if we're going to have any direct contact with Koitek, right? Because Lizzie's going on and on about, oh yeah, well what if we get attacked by Koitek, or what if Koitek makes a move? So I am curious as to whether that will ever happen or not. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's nice to see that, you know, their relationship has kind of gotten to this point compared to what it was before, where we were running through her house because she had chained us to the basement, you know. But that's going to be it for this time. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like on the video and tell me in the comment section below what you guys would like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyway, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one.